Michelle O'Connell, thank you so much for speaking with Love Oz YA about your contribution to Hometown Haunts. Now, you are actually an illustrator, so you're one of the two graphic components to the Love Oz YA, to the anthology. The first question I have is more of a general one. It's the one we're asking all of our contributors. And that's what, I do have to tweak it for you though. So that is, what is to you at the core of horror, and what is to you at the core of drawing horror?
So horror, thank you for having me, by the way. Horror is kind of what we're most scared of, but in society, a lot of the time it can be, oh man, it's hard to explain. Like, I know how I feel about it, but I love horror movies. I love horror anything, and it's always stuff that makes me forget how things are now. Just it puts me in like the actual controlled fear instead of like just fear you can't get away from in real life. It's something you can escape to, then come back from again, and it can also like push your understanding of things and your feelings. And I know how I feel about it, but it's hard to explain.
I think that's a really good explanation, actually. And it's really interesting because a lot of people, a lot of the authors have said similar things, that it's a quite a safe space to enter. You feel scared, but in a way that's really controlled. I'm really interested. This is just like a throwaway comment, but I would be really interested to know if people's answers to that extent have changed as a consequence of the last 2 years.
I'm sure they
Um,
have, like, because you can imagine where it could have gone the past 2 years. Like, it could have always been worse in different ways, and sometimes it's been worse than we could have imagined in different ways, like with people's reaction to it, and just people's reaction to measurements of keeping people safe, and people's reaction to medication, and if they can trust it or not. And you think that that kind of stuff wouldn't happen in like modern times, but it does, like with medicine. And it could always be worse, but in a lot of ways we've kind of seen how bad people can be even in like these times. I'm kind of like going in circles, but I can see a
no,
lot of interesting movies and ideas coming out of the stuff that have happened in the past 2 years with the COVID stuff.
yeah, absolutely. It's really funny. I keep seeing this like this meme that's popping up at the moment, which is about the new Matrix movie, and it's like, what are we meant to like think about a movie that's 20 years after the like original? Like, so what? I'm going to be plugged back into 1999. Like, dude, frost my tips and plug me in. I want to
I'm
go.
ready for it. Take me back.
Yeah, I would definitely not leave the Matrix. Like, it seems very comfortable. 1999, so many things, like a simpler time, especially with the lens of nostalgia. But no, I think you're absolutely right. I think horror is like, people are opting in to be scared to feel safe. And I think that's a really elegantly simple way of describing it.
Yeah.
Oh, so did you have something to add?
I was just gonna say that within like with stuff like anxiety, especially like chronic anxiety and just anxiety that's always there, the way that it was explained to me and other people as it's like being in a horror movie, but you don't, when you're terrified of like watching a horror movie and like you're scared, but then you can't turn that off. So like you're always
Mm,
got that kind of scared feeling, but when the movie ends or the event happens or whatever's happening, when that ends, you still feel the same way, but so you can't really escape from that fear and that anxiety. But yeah, movies you can control when you can stop it.
yeah, that's really, really true. And it's the same reason that across 2020, 2021, like, nostalgic TV shows had such a spike, because literally it's an anxiety controlling mechanism. You rewatch shows and movies that you know, because you know how it's going to end. Like, there's that, it really is a soother to that anxiousness. So I guess horror is just a slightly different genre way of looking at it. Um, yeah, no, that's really, really interesting. So with your contribution, it's really interesting because there's no words in it. obviously it's all visual. It's I think your artistic style is really lovely, really clear, really evocative as well. And I was really interested in, I'm trying to like kind of not give too much away, which has been the catch cries of all of my interviews. I'm like, I'm trying not to spoil it. I think what the visual medium is able to do is it's able to explore, like to put before the viewer or the audience suggestions about reality and perception that words can't, if that makes sense. So I'm even just thinking about that first panel, because it's about, you know, it's just about monsterhood, but it's also about perception. So I'm really interested, and I feel like I'm throwing you like the most general question, which are often the hardest ones to answer. So I am so sorry. But I'm really interested in what you love about your medium that you think it can do that words can't, but also especially with regard to horror and telling horror stories.
I think any like art mediums like animation and just art like that, I think it's really good. The really best stuff about horror, I think, is like the stuff that's not over explained. You kind of have to figure it out, and without words, without someone telling you what's happening, or like trying to like change the scenes in the movie, you get to draw something that people have to figure out. And if they can't figure it out, that's kind of even scarier. It's kind of like you have like a monster and you can't see what it really looks like, or you see a monster and you don't know what it does, and it's not explained to you. I feel like it's a lot scarier that way.
Right.
So I think the draw medium kind of really can make you unsettled without giving you any extra information. That makes sense?
No, that makes complete sense, because I think like the most horrific, the most terrifying things are the ones that you don't have an explanation for, which kind of feeds back into our discussion about like anxieties and concerns. But I'm really interested, and I'm just going to drill into this, if you don't mind. You really deliberately didn't use any language, any words whatsoever. And like to the point where there was a speech bubble and it was blacked out. And I'm really curious about that particular decision.
Yeah, because I felt like I was going to add some words in there, but it felt like it was changing my decision not to put any words in there. And I thought it would be exactly the same, maybe even better if there were no words in there, because you can imagine what they probably would have said, and people's reaction to those kind of situations, they probably would have had something different said to them, because everyone has their own experiences with people. So I feel like people can imagine what they would have said there, and it would mean more to them if they imagine what it would have been, if that makes sense.
No, that makes complete sense. And I think especially, and it's not a spoiler for me to say that I think it's really as is appropriate for a young adult anthology. It's like it really delves into the horrors and the discomforts of the teenage experiences. So I think that's a really clever decision, because you then allowed the reader to substitute their own experience, and then obviously are reflecting it through the prisms of here's how you could conceptualize it through the visual language that you've employed.
I think if you can like imprint yourself or part of yourself on it, it definitely makes it more personal.
Yeah, no, I think you did a really lovely job with that. So yeah, no, that's kind of all I'm gonna to like throw at you. You my like very broad and very specific questions about your work. No, I think your insights have been really interesting. Is there anything in particular coming up from you that we should be looking out for in the next few months, though?
Not horror related. It's pretty different from horror. I do have a little animation I've been working on with TED Ed, so that was really good to have that opportunity. It's about pretty different from horror, like I said. It's about marine sex, so sex in the ocean with fish, and like how they go about it and stuff. And that's going to be, I believe, on YouTube on the 23rd of this month.
Oh,
so
That's really exciting. Congratulations. We will definitely keep an eye
Thank
out
you.
for it. Well, thank you so much for speaking with us. And best of luck with your Maridru production video. That's really exciting.
Thank you. Thank you for having me again.
Anytime.